Hi, I am Simon T. Bailey, and welcome to Release Your Brilliance, where we have the opportunity to feature spirit-empowered leaders who are radiating brilliance in the marketplace. And I am so excited today because I want to introduce you to Dr. Megan Weinkauf. I looked at her background, and let me just tell you, first of all, I would describe her as a slashy. And you're probably saying, what's a slashy? Well, Dr. Megan is an educator slash, a researcher slash, an entrepreneur slash, and an activator who's really focused on how do you help leaders understand emotional intelligence. And if there is a thread that pulls through all of her work, it's really understanding individuals tapping into their inner whole being so that they can be well and lead well. Dr. Megan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to jump right in. So you have a multi-dimensional skill set. How did you discover this skill set, and what does that allow you to do as a spirit-empowered leader?
Well, it's almost been a decade ago, but I fully surrendered to the Lord my whole career and said, okay, I mean, you read the verses, here I am, send me. You know, we're good Christians in a lot of ways, but then it's like, okay, are you really going to do this thing? And that's when I was like, I give up control. I had this, decade-long in accounting, cost accounting, aerospace and defense manufacturing, was climbing the corporate ladder, so to speak, and just said, I surrender all. And that's what took me on this journey to really discovering that there was more, that He has more for us, and that honestly, if we lean into our fear and we have faithful steps forward, then He can open all kinds of doors of opportunity that we never thought was possible.
Wow. Tell us more about leaning into fear.
Well, I have dealt with a lot of fear in my life. And sometimes but I was a competitive, basketball player, but I learned that from a young age, right? So whenever we're starting to do something new or step out there, or the Lord's leading us to venture and pioneer a new pathway, there's going to be fear. Sure. Sometimes it also could be excitement though, because it's the same feeling, right? And I think letting go of expectations and leaning in to the process, trusting the process, is the most important thing that I've done. And I have seen myself grow. And every time there's a new level to go through, I'd say like to transform into, to emerge into a better version of yourself or a higher level of leading, I've learned to lean into that and allow the Lord to guide me through it. In community, of course, and through with accountability and the right people around you, you can really do a lot of amazing things that you never thought were possible.
Wow. Incredible.
Like sitting here today.
So one of the things that you teach that I think is so profound is this whole TSA approach to leadership, transformational servant authenticity. And there's a distinction between all of those. And I'm curious, and I know our viewers and listeners want to understand, how do you become a transformational servant, authentic leader?
Oh, goodness. Well, servant leadership and authentic leadership, make up transformational leadership. And not to get too academic in the history of things, but transformational leadership really came from a call from people and from researchers of saying, there's more than this transactional leadership. We've all experienced transactional leadership. We've all been those transactional leaders. Get the task done. You might not be super concerned about the people at the time because you're in task-focused mode. Well, then at the same time, Greenleaf and servant leadership came on the scene of serving others first. And what does that look like? And even academic definitions are quite a few paragraphs long, because it's not as simple as what we sometimes make little taglines to be.
Sure.
I love the leadership as influence, but there's so much that goes into that. And then authentic leadership came on the scene with Bill George, and that came out of the early 2000 scandals of saying that we need more. We need authentic leaders that are going to be real And that's where the three-prong approach comes in. But servant leadership and authentic leadership really go into transformational leadership because you're focused on the people. Yes, the task will still get done, but you're focused on the people. Another aspect, too, is now we're in a time where there's a lot of other scandals happening. We're seeing people who have been leading for decades, and there's inner healing that needed to happen. There was inner stuff going on. Because it's really hard for us to transform anyone else if we have not been transformed ourselves.
Wow.
You cannot take someone where you have not been yourself. And so the disconnect sometimes with servant leadership is I'm serving, but I'm not focused on myself. We have to take care of ourselves first. It's just like the analogy that we hear all the time, or over and over in my field of being in an airplane. What do they tell you first? To put your mask on first before you can help anyone else in a time of crisis. But it goes even before that because there's so much that we deal with as humans on a daily basis. And if we do not have the right people around us and the accountability, I have a spiritual director and a counselor and a coach and a pastor and those people that are surrounding us to say, okay, are we staying on track and making sure that we are real with ourselves? That's whenever you can lean into transformational leadership. And it's intangible. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but there are intangible things that we can do. It seems intangible, like being present with someone in a micro moment of a conversation. You have no idea how that can transform their world, how that can just give them one more ounce of hope to keep going. Wow. And sometimes when we're so focused on the task of doing, we will let go of being with the person in that moment. And honestly, if God controls all time and space, if he holds all time and space, if we're flowing with the Holy Spirit in and out every day, giving him our plans, giving him our even interruptions that could really be those divine interactions, those divine appointments for us and for others, then that's where the true transformation can take place through serving and being authentic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dr. Megan, oh my goodness, we got to drop a pin in something you said, this whole thing of inner healing. There's someone that's listening to us right now, and you gave an example of totally being present, taking that micro moment to really connect and create inner healing for that person just by being seen, valued, and understood. But could you go a little bit deeper and say, what else can those that are listening to us, to be healing presence wherever they show up? Are there some other insight that you have that's practical that they can implement?
Yes, and I want to do a whole study on it. Because if we haven't gone through the inner healing ourselves, and then we don't have the emotional capacity to even be present with someone else, to hold space for another without taking on their pain. We're all facing pain. We're all going through stuff. We've been in conversations before, and you can tell whenever someone will lean in and be present in that moment, and they have the emotional capacity, and whenever they want to pull out real quick because it's so painful for them. And that's a human experience, right?
Yes.
But if we will pay attention to our inner self and the levels of healing that we need to go through, and God will show us. I mean, he will take us on another round and another layer and another layer. Whenever the red flags come up, maybe you're getting frustrated. Oh, I love this. Okay, so I've been thinking about job performance a lot. And what is poor performance? Well, it's just my unrealistic expectations or a leader's unrealistic expectations of someone else.
Wow.
Or they might see something in someone else that they do and they don't really like about themselves.
Wow.
So what are you getting? What makes you most frustrated? And sometimes I'll ask clients and students that is the thing that we need to focus on, healing within ourselves. Yeah.
I hope you are taking notes. You are writing down some of the wisdom that Dr. Megan is sharing with us. Dr. Megan, on your website, thefaithfulleader.com, there is an assessment called the Habit Finder.
Yes.
And so a three-part question, what are habits? Why are habits important? But based on the data of people who have taken the Habit Finder assessment, by the way, it's free. Wink, wink. It's free. If they go to your website,
yes,
free. We like free. What is the data saying to you about the future of leadership?
Well, I did my whole dissertation, my PhD dissertation on this. And so I went really deep into neuroscience and leadership, which thankfully is gaining traction, in research and in the marketplace, and we're focusing more on that. But what I really wanted to see was, we believe certain things, we have habits of thinking. How is our mind driving our behaviors? And where is there a disconnect? Are we ever going to have, a zero-sum game? Probably not on, this side of heaven. But we can close that gap. And there are ways to notice, okay, what are my thoughts doing to impact my behavior? Is it positive or negative? Is it supporting or sabotaging my efforts in personal life and professional life? And that's where really the Habit Finder comes into play, because it is a lot of personality assessments. Sometimes we answer the questions, although they're great and I love them. Sure. I love all assessments. They're tools to help us learn and grow and learn more about ourselves. But the Habit Finder assessment will go deeper beneath the surface, because it's a rank order assessment, and it will show you where your habits of thinking are supporting you or maybe holding you back in some ways.
Wow.
And so whenever you take it, then there's even explanations, or you can reach out to me, and we can have a debrief call to understand it even further. So for example, entrepreneurs sometimes are these vivid visionaries, and even leaders can be that way. I mean, you're usually chosen to be a leader if you can vision cast and see the future and point people in a direction. But sometimes we might fantasize about where we should be or where a company should be going, and then miss out on building the structure and the meaningful steps that are going to get us there. May seem mundane in the moment, but we have to come down, from the vision to make sure that we are building the necessary structures to get us there.
Wow, so good. thefaithfulleader.com, make sure you go there. I want to build on what you just shared. And here's how I want us to think about this. When we first met at an event not too long ago, our mutual friend David Gross introduced us. You shared with me, almost in a serendipitous conversation, this whole thing around forgiveness in business. And you shared a framework and how it can impact cultures. So I would love for you two things. Number one, to define what is culture, why is culture important in business, but then unpack this forgiveness framework and how it can impact business.
Okay, let's do it. I love workplace forgiveness. It's gaining a lot of traction right now. Even trainings in every organization are catching on to understanding the necessity of it. So within your culture, within any organization, it's how people act and feel and behave, in that place. It's also what are the beliefs? Do we talk about hard things? Do we address issues, or do we push them under the rug? Is it a safe place to voice your concerns without retaliation? All of those intricacies, and so it's really hard, to just put it all in one big definition, because it makes up so many little moments and honestly, like the behaviors. Even an organization can say they have a vision and a mission and values, but do they live out the values? And then do your leaders and your managers and your supervisors embody those values? Are people even bought in, to it? But you could even be in a larger organization and still your department have a different culture than maybe the C-suite, of the top leaders. So it's going to depend on your leader. It just is. Who they are and how they act and behave, and again, going back to inner healing.
Sure.
So within that of forgiveness, there's been a lot of models out there. This is one that I'm working on right now. I probably should trademark it. But the first step is realizing. So realizing that there was a hurt. And that could be for anyone in the organization. And we can't really judge on when and why people become hurt, but you have to realize it. So sometimes we could say, oh, that's no big deal, but it was hurtful. And so realizing it takes processing. It takes creating that safe place for people to if you're the leader, for people to come to you, or for colleagues to go to one another. Because at the same time, in a workplace, we have to be with people. Sometimes you can't just set up a boundary, which is sometimes, can be a wall of like, I'm not going to talk to this person again. And I'm not talking about abuse or anything like that. I'm just talking about us doing our human thing with one another every day. So realizing it. And then you have to be able to release the hurt. So, and there are lies usually that are hung up in the hurt, if that makes sense. Maybe lies that you're believing. Someone didn't say hi to me like they always do. I mean, it could be really simple things like that. Well, maybe something is going on in their life, or they're working on a big project, or their mom has cancer. Like, we don't know what's going on, but we have to be able to release it. And release the lie that so-and-so doesn't like you, or that you're not going to do well on this project, or that your team is not going to come together. Because I teach a lot on that, on a group becoming a team. Whenever strangers come together to accomplish said project, there's a whole process that you go into. You form, then you go through a storming phase, right?
Sure.
Then you're norming. Then you're performing. So and we've all, a lot of us have learned about that in management classes. So that you have to expect it, but you've got to release the lie, and then receive the truth. So receive maybe even forgiveness for yourself. Receive the truth of the situation, and that goes back to the processing and the confronting and the leaning into the conflict, and even talking about, hi, I noticed that you didn't, say hi to me. Is there something that we need to talk about? Because there actually might be. You might be upset with me about an email that was sent or a decision that was made. And, it's hard in organizations sometimes too, because only certain people are privy to information at different levels. And sometimes you can only share so much. But if you clear the air, and we call those collaborative conversations, then it's so helpful. And then the restore. And sometimes you aren't going to restore the relationship all the way. Like if trust has been very badly damaged, and so it's really hard to generalize this because every situation depends. But also restoring yourself, because sometimes whenever we are in a place of unforgiveness, we don't want to let ourselves go to a place of bitterness, because then that's impacting our productivity, our job satisfaction, our motivation. All of those things can be impacted. But we're restoring ourselves back to, in this case, our true identity, right? And understanding even the truth of what God says about us in that moment, and not what we're allowing our identity to be shaped by in that certain situation.
Dr. Megan, you have to trademark this. I normally would not be so direct, but did y'all catch that? This whole ability to realize, release, and restore, that's profound. That is so good. Okay, so here's the last question. I could talk to you for hours.
I know.
So you've just been hired as an executive coach to coach the top 5 leaders of a mid-sized company, 1,000 employees. How would you help them align their values with confidence to really move the organization into the future?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question because one would probably even be, what are their values?
Okay.
A lot of people, and I've taken people through trainings before on identifying what their values are.
Sure.
And then defining their values, defining who do they want to be as a leader. How do they want people to experience them? I would also beg them to get inner healing, to deal with their stuff before it deals with them. And what I mean by that is if we don't deal with our stuff, even going all the way back to childhood, even things that you didn't even think that were hurtful that might be impacting you today as a leader, you might be taking it out, your hurt out on other people, because we know hurt people, then it's going to hang, you can define your values, you can say this is what you want to be, but how you're going to show up, there's going to be a disconnect. So having a coach in that place, accountability group, even 360-degree reviews. Are you collecting feedback from people? And it's not just saying, I want to know the truth. How do you experience me as a leader? Well, then you're quiet and you listen and you don't retaliate or you don't become defensive in that space. That's really important for people to listen and to listen well, and for them to know that you are a safe person and that they can trust you and that you are wanting to grow. And you can take that feedback back to your coach, back to your counselor, back to the people who are helping you become a better version of yourself. Because again, so that would be it.
Okay.
You know, with defining their values. How do they want to show up? How do their values align with their organization, if they have any, and going through that. But then really getting into the mess. And the transformational leadership is messy. It is messy. It is saying, I am going to journey with you on this process. I am going to go through the highs with you. I'm going to go through the lows with you. It will get better. And we have to have the mess. We have to even embrace the dark times in order for it to, as we say, go through the valley to climb the mountaintop. There's tons of analogies for this, right?
Wow.
So, but I am going to partner with you, even leaders doing that, and not just being so quick to dismiss someone, or if they get offended, get rid of someone, or if you want people on your team that are going to disagree with you. You want that. You want healthy processing.
Wow.
And healthy emotions are mixed emotions. So you're going to have all of them, mad, bad, sad, and glad. And that's probably an exercise I would take them through as well. What are the last 5 situations that just frustrated you? And then allocating, like, what percentage of it made you mad, bad, it made you feel bad, made you glad, made you sad? Because sometimes we can over allocate, emotions to something without fully understanding what's happening. And then recognizing, where did our values show up? Were we who we wanted to be? And if not, it's okay, we're human. Let's go on a journey to close that gap.
Wow. Folks, Dr. Megan Weinkauf has given us a mini MBA on steroids in just a few moments. You literally have heard from a spirit-empowered leader who is radiating brilliance in the marketplace. If she can, so can you. I just want to remind you that it's your time and it's your moment to release your brilliance. And in the words of the founder of ORU, something good is going to happen to you.